You know when you watch one of those classic old movies, what is it that gives them that magical glow? It's not just the acting or the story, it's the light. We're going to get into how movie lighting went from just, being a technical problem to solve to being one of the most powerful tools for telling a story. And really, it all boils down to this one simple fact. Back in the day, you could have the best director, the biggest star, none of it mattered as much as the sun. It was the original and only spotlight, and filmmakers were completely at its mercy. So yeah, picture it. We're talking the early 1900s. Making a movie wasn't some quiet, controlled thing inside a studio. Nope, it was all happening outside in a frantic race against time, where the sun was calling all the shots. And because they had zero control, films from this era have this really specific look. You can't miss it once you know what to look for. I mean, you've got these super harsh shadows coming straight down, making actors' faces look, well, weird. You can literally see the actors squinting from the bright glare. And a perfect take? Forget about it. One little cloud passes by and boom, the light flickers, the shot is ruined. Your entire production schedule depended on the weather being just right. And this, right here, this is the secret origin of Hollywood. It wasn't about the glamour or the palm trees. It was a business decision, plain and simple. Southern California offered something that was basically priceless. Almost 300 days a year of consistent, predictable, and totally free sunlight. So the entire film industry literally packed up and headed west to chase the light. Of course, just having a lot of light wasn't enough. Not for long, anyway. As the stories got bigger and more complex, filmmakers were desperate for more control. And so began this massive effort to finally tame light itself by moving filmmaking out of the sun and into the studio. And you can see how they figured it out step by step. At first, in the early 1900s, they did some kind of crazy stuff, like building sets on giant revolving turntables that would physically follow the sun across the sky. Then, in the 1910s, they built these enormous glass cathedrals, basically giant greenhouses, to diffuse the sunlight. But they were still slaves to the sun. The real, honest-to-God game changer was the tungsten revolution in the 1920s. For the first time, they had powerful, controllable artificial lights. They were finally free. And you cannot overstate how huge this was. This changed everything. All of a sudden, light wasn't something you found, it was something you built. The cinematographer went from being someone who just recorded what was there to being a true artist, a sculptor, who could literally paint with shadows and light to make you feel a certain way. With all this new power, they needed a system, a set of rules. They needed a new language. And that brought us to the fundamental grammar of film lighting, this whole art of sculpting with shadows. And the foundation of that new language is a technique called three-point lighting. It's not so much a strict rule as it is, well, the basic vocabulary for telling a story with light. It's like a conversation happening between three different lights, all working together to give a person or an object real shape and depth. Okay, so here's how this conversation works. First up, you have your key light. That's the star of the show, the main light source. It's what gives the subject their shape. But on its own, it's pretty harsh. So you bring in the fill light, and you stick it on the opposite side. Its job isn't to add more light, but to fill in and soften those deep shadows the key light made. And then, for the final touch, you add the backlight. It hits the subject from behind, creating this little halo of light that makes them pop right off the background. And that's it. That's the secret sauce. This three-way conversation between light and shadow is exactly how the stars of the Golden Age got that incredible, ethereal, larger-than-life look. It's what literally made them glow on screen. But this lighting grammar wasn't just about making movie stars look amazing. You could play with it, bend the rules, and build entirely different worlds and moods. Let's look at how two totally opposite genres used it. And this is so cool. You can see the system being pushed to its absolute limits in two different directions. On one hand, you have film noir. The whole idea there was to show a morally gray world. So they used this high contrast, shadowy style called chiaroscuro. And they got it by basically getting rid of the fill light completely, which plunged everything into these deep, dramatic shadows. Now, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have the Technicolor musical. The goal there? Pure fantasy. So they did the exact opposite. They just flooded the set with bright, high-key lighting, washing out almost every single shadow to create this perfect, almost unreal sense of happiness. So when you look at the whole picture, it's just this amazing journey. Light started as a simple necessity, just needing enough of it so the camera could see something. And it evolved into this incredibly sophisticated art form that let movies dream and show us complex emotions without a single word. Because that's what it all comes down to, right? Before the music starts, before an actor even says a line, the light has already told your brain how to feel about a scene. A bright, warm scene feels safe. A dark, shadowy room feels dangerous. It's a subconscious, universal language we all understand. So here's a little something to think about. The next time you're watching a movie, any movie, old or new, just for a second, ignore the actors and pay attention to the light. Look at where the shadows are, where the highlights are, and just ask yourself, how is the light shaping this story? And more importantly, how is it making me feel? Trust me, you'll never look at movies the same way again.